Tom, absolute pleasure to come to the Guild. Thanks for having us down.
Mark, thank you. Thanks for coming.
The man, the myth, the legend. We've had about maybe like 40 episodes so far. This is the first episode, and like I said, it's not out of disrespect that I've done no pre-planning or pre-questions, because I feel my natural fascination and admiration for what you've done will just guide us through this episode.
Well, thank you. That's quite an honor. Thank you.
So just quickly, just to give people listening and watching, who is Tom? A bit about your background. You're not a native of Dubai, so
Nope.
you know, where's the origin from, and maybe take us up to the point that you landed on these shores.
Okay, cool. So my name is Tom Arnel. I'm the founder of EATX, one of Dubai's sort of first homegrown restaurant companies. So I'm a chef by trade, actually. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, where I trained in a very famous restaurant there called Vue de Monde by Shannon Bennett, one of the most famous Australian chefs in the world, and really made a big name for himself and that restaurant at the time. I was going back 2005. So I worked for him for about 5 years, and then traveled a little bit around the world, specifically Spain. I worked in a 3 Michelin star there called Artzac. I went to Singapore for a while. I went to Oman, actually, where I first actually encountered a hotel, or working inside of a hotel, which was a great experience, by the way. And then after Oman, I traveled around a little bit more, just dotting around the place, seeing whatever inspired me. And then I ended up coming to Abu Dhabi to work for a Australian cafe and retail company. From Abu Dhabi, moved to Dubai, which was, in my view at the time, a bit more of a vibey city that I enjoyed more.
Yeah.
Moved here full time, and then saw the buzz and the energy that existed in this city. I thought, oh my God, I have to stay here for a long time, and I've got to do something in business because I loved it. The opportunity was incredible. I saw that.
What year was this?
This is 2013.
Okay.
13. So yeah, Dubai at that time was, there wasn't much, to be honest with you. There was a lot of amazing places, like a lot of, beautiful. Dubai Mall had just opened. Mall of the Emirates was doing very well, very glitzy and very glamorous. And there were a lot of amazing hotels, really amazing hotels. And Dubai was sort of known for, a lot of that glitz and glamour, but there wasn't much of the real grungy sort of enthusiastic, young sort of energy that I thought a Melbourne coffee culture style venue could bring, which would fill the gap that I wanted to bring. So
you mentioned a famous restaurant in Melbourne, then you mentioned a 3 Michelin star. I was telling my family over the weekend the story of Michelin Guide and how it was actually the tire company, and the 3 Michelin stars would be the further you drive, so people would use more tires the further you drive, and that's the origin of it. But what was the training that you went through as a chef? Was it classical training? Was there a type of training? Was there a type of food that you were passionate about that inspired you?
Yeah, it was mostly classical French, actually. That was what really inspired me in the beginning. So I learned all the basics from hospitality school. Went through that just straight out of high school, went into hospitality school, became an apprentice, and loved that. And went straight into French fine dining at Vue de Monde. Amazing experience.
There's quite a lot of, so we have a tech startup, that's what our company is in the hospitality industry. I think there's quite a lot of similarities which people might not see on the surface.
Yeah.
A couple of them are usually software engineers found the company, and then the software engineer has to become a CEO and a businessman.
Right.
You are a chef who founds a business and has to become a CEO and a businessman.
Yeah.
That's one major one that I see. How have you seen the transition of working in the kitchen to, going, how do I start a business? Like, can you talk us through the first step? And I think the second correlation, which people might not realize, is tech startups have a huge failure rate.
Yeah.
I think restaurants are probably the one company or industry that beats us in terms of failure rate. So
probably.
We're very similar.
Yeah. It's because there's no right or wrong, really. You've got to sort of invest and believe in a vision that you have to create something from scratch. That's the way I see it. As a kid, I was very creative, very good at art and graphic design and stuff like that. But I also actually, weirdly, was very good at economics. And I loved economics at high school. I actually got into university for economics, but chose to do a chef apprenticeship instead. much to my parents sort of like, what the fuck are you doing sort of type thing. But it was great. I had more of an interest in it, and I saw more of a future in the hospitality industry. But yeah, point being, restaurants are bloody hard. And as I said, it's all some sort of creative expression. There's no right or wrong in what we do, and you have to sort of, work off of what the demand looks like, what the city looks like, what what you believe is missing. It's it's quite a challenge.
We'll get to EATX in a moment, but if you take us back to 2013, you arrived in Dubai, you saw the energy of the city.
Yeah.
Like, what was the next step, and was there an ideation moment? Had there been something that you had the idea years before, and this was the right city to do it in? Can you just try and take us back to that moment?
Yeah. So Dubai seemed to me at that point, early on, to be very multicultural, similar to where I'm from, Melbourne. Very multicultural city. And there was a clear gap in the market for the breakfast and brunch culture with specialty coffee that did not exist. So that was the concept that I led with. I wanted to do Australian cafe culture, lead with breakfast and lunch, close at 4 o'clock, break all the rules. People thought I was mental. What do you want to close at 4 o'clock for? Dinner's where the money's at. Yeah, I was like, there's no one doing breakfast. There's no one doing great brunch. There's no one doing really good specialty coffee that's not just a big chain. So that was what led the idea. And then trying to overcome challenges that were in the way I was not prepared for. Specifically as a startup, trying to get a lease in a very prominent location back then when there was low supply in the market for real estate was an absolute nightmare. And that's what forced us to open in Al Quoz, the industrial area, which gave it that grunge and that sort of, I don't know, this sort of aura that did not exist in any of these other restaurants in the city because they're all franchises and sort of cookie cutters.
Yeah.
So we were just this little cool little coffee shop beast, but it was a warehouse, it was big, and there was constant lines at the door all the time. So it filled a gap in the market, and that was Tom and Serg.
But Al Quoz now, people might know it for lots of paddle, lots of sports, lots of restaurants, but can you take us back to like what was there in 2013?
Yeah, not much. Not much. It was when we had to tell people where we were. There was no Google Maps wasn't really even being utilized much at all back then either. I think it still existed, but it was still very tough to get people to go there. And it was. I think the fact that we were forced to open in that spot because we couldn't get a lease anywhere else was literally what helped me build the company, because we sort of started off on this homegrown sort of footing. It was amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I'd ask you, Tom, not to be humble in this answer.
Okay.
This is where I want you to brag.
All right.
Okay, I know that's pretty easy for you. But just please give us context of the size of EATX today. If you were selling it to me as a big investor, get me excited. Please show us how big you've built it.
So, since 2013, November, we've built it up to 22 properties across the city. 11 brands amongst those 22 properties, and we have, what I believe, tried to reroute the daily routine of the entire population through our venues at different times of day with our concepts and our cuisines. So if you look at the website, it is a big mix of concepts and cuisines, and nobody really puts two and two together as to why until I say it is designed to literally get people coming in and spending, money and, using the venues in the morning for coffee, for breakfast, for post-workout or pre-workout, so healthy, good coffee, food for triathletes to gym people to yoga to whatever, all the way through to great business lunches in the DIFC at the Guild here or another common grounds that I have, through to a really great modern Asian restaurant that we've just opened called Hawker Boy, cuisine specific that fills a genre in that area, JLT. Pizzeria above it, called Frankie's, that, again, feeding the people that live in that area. That's what we've tried to do, is literally feed the city.
Yeah. You say now that that's a vision, and there's not a funny story, but I think quite an amazing story of His Highness in the elevator of the Burj Al Arab, and he's coming down and it's the 360 view elevator, and there's two Japanese tourists looking out at Dubai, and they're like, wow, this place, someone must have a plan. And His Highness said behind, someone does have a plan.
I did not hear that before. That's amazing.
Yeah. And
that's amazing.
you know, people say that this city, you know, if hoteliers were to drive this city, they would have said we had too many hotels like 20 years ago.
Yeah, of
but
course.
we just keep going and going and going. From the first property of Tom and Serg in Al Quoz to, I believe this may be one of the more recent ones, maybe there's a few more on top of it. Honestly, how much of it was vision? How much of it was building on success? How ambitious were you from day one? Like, where did you want to take it? Are you finished? Do you want to keep going? I know there's a lot of questions in that. But what was the vision?
Since I was very young, I always wanted to build a restaurant company that had many brands. And with many restaurants, it's been in my mind for many years actually. I love this city so much actually. It's quite incredible how much I've grown to love it. And what you say about, you know, Sheikh Mohammed in the elevator, that's an inspiring story, because I really feel like I've felt that energy since 2010 when I got here to the UAE when I was in Abu Dhabi. It's infectious actually. And the way that I think the city has been planned, I don't know if they've actually done it like that because that's what the vision was, but the fact that it's sort of like beach, desert, you know, Abu Dhabi side, airport side, you can sort of put a rectangle over the city, and within a 15 to 20 minute drive, everything's available. So in terms of lifestyle, for livability, I honestly cannot tell you a better city in the world. I really can't. And I've traveled a lot, you know, as a tourist, and, you know, just to go and look around in places. I honestly think it's one of the best cities in the world. That is the most exciting, and that's why I think we've grown so much, because we can see that the potential here is just massive. And when you were saying about the hotels being built years ago, we were thinking, who's going to fill all these hotels? Who's going to fill all these, you know, residential towers and villa complexes they're building? Now, they're all full, and you cannot get a room. You cannot get a villa. The prices are going up. It's incredible.
Yeah, and your own vision for that, did that grow with the city then?
Yeah. The opportunity behind ICD Brookfield Place that we got. You know, we have an Encounter Coffee on the first floor here. We have the Guild, 20,000 square feet, in I think what is, you know, some of the best real estate in the entire city. It came with, good timing, good relationships with people at ICD Brookfield, and a desire to take on a big challenge, and that comes from being in the city. Yeah.
We talked about the breadth of the group you've built, and congratulations. But like, as you know, someone who's starting out on my journey, I haven't founded a company. I'm only 4 years in, but it's not all sunshine and roses. Right. It's not all good days, and like, I don't want to bring up bad memories, but I think you learn most from failures and from tough times. And like, that's why I have such admiration for someone like yourself, because I know it can't have been always easy, if ever easy. I said this morning to someone that as the leader, you're kind of like a magnet for bad news. So like, my marketing team might have a good day, but if my product and engineering team have a bad day, well, I have a bad day because I have to help product and engineering. Marketing can leave happy. They don't even know it happened.
Perfect.
So you're a magnet for bad news. You're the first call that people will make when something bad happens. So like, a couple of questions again within that. Like, can you talk us through some of the toughest times you've been through? And then, was it a support network, or how you got out of it? Was it a mindset?
Yeah. It is. I don't think there is, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but I think because of the amount of people interactions that you must have every single day, whether it's customers or employees, that is the most difficult thing, is to manage expectations from everybody around you, whether it's customers or your staff, because those two things are the most important thing. Without either of them, you cannot do anything. So managing the challenges that come with business growth, that you need. The only way you can do things or achieve something is by people management and by working well with people. And it presents huge challenges on a daily basis. And it can become tiring because it's personalities and it's moods and it's emotions and all these kinds of things. And you have to be prepared for that. But like, my whole thing is that in this restaurant business, and I'm sure it goes for hotels as well, if you really are passionate about what you're doing and you believe that what you're doing is going to work, then it won't fail. And it sort of makes the interactions much easier because you believe that it's all going to be fine. You're just going to make sure everyone around you knows it's all going to be fine. Just chill. You know, like that's the hardest thing, I think.
Was there ever an existential moment where you took a risk and you thought, wow, will this pay off? Or were you always calculated?
No, I can't say it's always been calculated. I think all of my venues, our venues have been risks. I have amazing business partners. I think that's the one of the biggest things that you could ever hope for and wish for when you're in a company you want to grow, is that building great relationships with your partners and getting them to believe that your effort and your will is going to get you there, and that you're there for the right reasons, and all these kinds of things is very important. So having the right partners helps you get to that next level for sure, and the relationship with them. And then having them understand if you do fail, how to get you through it, because that's they need to be, give a shoulder to cry on as well if you're having a bad day, because bad days happen all the time. You can't be always just, it's going to be fine, but because I have bad days, of course. But but the belief is still there, and especially if you've got people, partners backing you up with that, you're fine. You got it.
Amazing. We walk into a place like the Guild when it opens, right? And everything looks incredible. And, this is one of my favorite restaurants in Dubai at the moment. And, we've obviously handed out lots of vouchers to lots of hoteliers to bring them down here because we actually just think it's an amazing place. But we only see opening night.
Yeah.
What does, for people listening and watching, what does concept building look like? Does it start after you get the space? Does it start before you get the space and then you look for the space?
Yeah.
How does a concept come to life?
This one was one of the most difficult I'd ever had to approach, because the pressure was on from day one. We're in one of the most prominent business towers in the entire region, let alone the world. We have up to 8,000 people upstairs that work for some of the biggest companies in the world. They're all well-traveled, they're well-dined, they're no dummies, they know how to eat. And my job is to put food on the plate that is good value, tastes bloody good, that is world class, and to come up with what and how you do that. Again, saying there are no rules. Like someone's got to decide. So that's essentially my job, is to decide what they're all going to eat, and that was pretty tough. And in the beginning, it was actually I'd planned for this to be more of a daytime dining food hall, because I felt that that's what the building needed. But the problem is that nighttime was not going to be that great. Whereas the DIFC, it's a buzz of people at nighttime, and one of the, if not the best destination in the city, I should say it is the best destination in the city for restaurants. So luck was on my side. I'll be positive in saying when COVID hit, I decided to change it, because it was would have been a disaster if I had an all-day dining food hall that was in an office tower where nobody's going back to the office anymore. So I focused on the evening, but had to make sure that it was going to work during the day. So the conceptualization was, okay, if what has worked in history, and I sort of went back to Europe and New York and looked at some of these restaurants with purpose, which I find is like a Balthazar or Wolseley or something like that. They're literally feeding people in that inner city area, whether it's business people or people there for an occasion or whatever, but you can go there for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. It's like perfect. So what happens if you take a Wolseley or a Balthazar and you stick it in Dubai in 2024 and not London or New York in 1996? And so we came up with the Guild, which is what we have.
How applicable is looking at other cities when looking at concepts to bring it to somewhere like Dubai? Like, I think one of the downfalls in Dubai, with the greatest respect, is the pretentiousness of the city. And a lot of times you'll go to some restaurants and you know what I'm talking about. It's just like there's a bit of especially at like the big known Nobus, for example, stuff like that. Sometimes it's just a little bit pretentious. So two questions in that really. One is, how do you look at other major cities and bring something? Because I think what the Guild has done well is there's still an element of class here. I would bring a date here as much as I'd bring my mum here.
Yep, perfect.
Hopefully I got that right. But in other places I'd be like, I don't know if I should bring my mum to this place.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. No, I think that's correct. It is a place for all, like it's a, we had to solve a lot of problems here. We didn't want it to be pretentious. We wanted to still have a soul and sort of feel in a way, homegrown. So it's a brand new creation, as I said. The architect David Archer of Archer Humphreys Architects from London really helped with that to make sure that no matter what occasion you're here for, you can find something for you within this venue.
And for people who don't know, one of his most famous ones would be Chiltern Firehouse, for example.
Yeah. And that was what sold me on him originally, because I love Chiltern Firehouse.
Same, yeah.
It's an icon, and what he did with that in terms of how the rooms are separated and the main dining room, and I'm talking about not the rooms of the hotel, but the actual restaurant and the bar layouts. Yeah. Incredible. Like, you can use it for so many different purposes. So that we try to take that into play when we did the design here, because having cafe, brasserie, lounge bar we're sitting in now called the Potting Shed, main salon, which is the main dining room where the big grill is, seafood restaurant in the rock pool. Great for oysters and champagne, celebrating a big deal or an occasion or whatever. And then the Aviary, maybe don't take your mum to the Aviary late at night, but take your date for sure. So as I said, there's something for everyone. I'm very proud of it.
Okay, I'd like to pivot just for a little bit, and one of the reasons I'm enjoying sitting down with you is we don't have PR or marketing telling us what we can and can't say. Josh has been obviously kind to us.
He's probably listening somewhere.
He wants to edit this bit out. In case you're about to partner with any hotels. One of my gripes with hotels is, and let's just call it out, the Royal Atlantis had a big launch, and you drove up the Palm and you saw the 10 to 20 celebrity chefs who came over. They stick their name on a restaurant, they take a picture, and they don't come back. And I think restaurants have such a captive market of diners, but we seem to look internationally for big name in lights like Las Vegas. And are those restaurants even doing well? I know there's turnover already in the place I just mentioned. And what do you see a better route forward? Because most of our listeners are hotels. If you were to speak to the hotel industry right now in selecting who your chef should be for your amazing real estate, what have they got wrong? What have they got right? And what can they do in the future?
Are we talking about Dubai specifically?
Dubai specifically.
Okay.
And listen, if you have another angle, please add it in. But for now, this question, Dubai.
No, it's fine. I think Dubai is still just very young. So it takes time for the local homegrown chefs that have been here for a long time to mature, grow up the ranks until they're ready to be found by a hotelier and say, I've got a space for you. Would you like to partner up here? It's happened a few times already. But if you look at the top 50 guide, like the restaurants that are actually with chefs that are from Dubai are not in hotels. Whether it's Moonrise or look at Farley Brothers, these guys are not in hotels. They're in other spots. So it doesn't necessarily take a hotel to create somebody. And I think that what am I going to say? Okay. Like, if you look at one of my favorite books in the world is Ritz and Escoffier. Have you read that? It's amazing. You should check it out. It's but it talks about how Escoffier came from France to London, and that's where he actually became most famous, because London wasn't. France had already established itself as a culinary wonderland years and years and years ago, but London hadn't yet. It was still young, so it took more chefs to come and then flourish and grow and develop in London to eventually get it to where it is today. And it's still growing, London, in that sense. But what I'm saying is that there will be chefs in the next 10 years that move to Dubai and put up home here, and they will become superstars of the world very soon. It's happening under our eyes right now. There are, I could probably name 10 or 15 that are doing it. But I think in 10 years, it'll be an incredible culinary place. But
what's the pitch to a hotel manager or ownership making a decision right now where they've got beautiful real estate for a restaurant, and the first phone book they look at is a list of international chefs? What's the pitch to say? Because if they're international guests, they don't have a clue who the Farley brothers are. Maybe they do. I don't know. And forgive me if I'm saying that incorrectly. But how can we pitch to them to give the local homegrown talent?
I think one of the problems as well is that they're trying to flog off spaces that are too big.
Okay.
So like you got a new general manager coming to this new hotel. He's going to come and shake things up. He's going, right, we've got this amazing space. It's got 300 seats, and we're going to go and get They've got two options. One, either a chef from outside who probably doesn't care. All he cares about is his name on the door. What's my cut going to be? Fine. There's no risk in it for him, right? But the local chef that you go and get, you might have to go and get someone young. Doesn't really know how to run a 300-seat restaurant yet. So what I think should happen, or maybe the next thing that does happen, is that restaurant chefs should take opportunities in bite-sized chunks.
Okay.
And the hoteliers, I hope, would give them small spaces. The problem is that most of the hotels are built on this grand scale and all the rooms are big. Mm. So I don't know how you do that. They have to find, like O'Farley Brothers is an amazing place.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Amazing place. It's tiny, but that's all that they need. They don't need much more. Just create an amazing experience for what's in there right now.
For the celebrity chefs, do you know how it's structured? Is it like, hey, Gordon Ramsay, put your name on the door and we'll give you £1 million a year plus percentage of profits? How does it work?
I'm sure they're all different. I haven't seen anything lately, but when I was in Oman, I was talking about before, I was working at VU by Shannon Bennett, and from what I understand, it was a cut to him based on revenue, and maybe a key money for using the brand as well, but it doesn't really incentivize the chef to get in there and get his hands dirty, So I don't know what the current structures are right now, but I don't see any, I don't think, maybe if anyone can tell me, an international chef coming into a hotel restaurant and really getting his hands dirty. So I know people that have just opened places, they've just flown in, been there for 2 weeks, done the opening, gone away again, and then won major awards for that restaurant that's just opened, beating homegrown restaurants that have been here for years and are well established and are way better. Let's be honest.
Okay.
And that's still happening.
But how legit are those awards? Are they paid to win, or?
They're awards. The public sees them.
Yeah.
Well, it should be fair.
Yeah.
Who knows if they're paid? But the point is that these hotels, they have big marketing budgets for sure, which is a good thing. That's great. But I hope that the industry in Dubai, and it will, because it's happening. So I'm not complaining. I've talked about so many amazing things that are in this city. But yeah, the point of I saw some things over the last few months that were unfair in my view.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Do you want to share?
No.
Josh will kill you.
Exactly. I danced around it. So yeah.
You did.
Yeah. Some people that know would know.
Well, listen. Let's finish up with a few questions. The first I'd say is, from your experience to date, what is the blend of ambiance and vibe versus quality of food? Like, are people coming for the feeling they get when they leave, or are they coming for how incredibly tasteful the food is? What's that blend? What's the magic potion, do you think? Does it depend on type?
My approach is the food always has to be front and center.
Okay.
First on the mind. That is what people are coming for, and if it sucks, they will not come back. But in a city like Dubai, vibe is also what people want as well. It's a young population. They want to be entertained also. You see so many restaurants that are now offering entertainment or stages or constant DJ interaction with the crowd. So yeah, you have to get a nice mix of the whole lot, but 100% focus on the food.
Okay.
Has to be fun. So,
right.
Yeah.
Dubai, what has it got too much of and what is it missing?
What is it missing? I'm going to go back again. I'm going to say too many restaurants that are too big, that are run by chefs that are not here, and not enough homegrown talent yet.
Okay.
But it's on the way.
Right. That answers both, is it? Too much of the first bit, not enough of the homegrown.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't give a political answer in this, in the sense you can't say one of EATX's properties. But is there a property out there in terms of a restaurant, a concept in Dubai that you admire, you'd like to give kudos to, and you think, what a phenomenal job they've done?
Yeah, so many. That's a very difficult question.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say it's phenomenal growth in the way that Stasha from 21 Grams has been able to position her cafe after a move that has turned into a restaurant that is really making waves on the best restaurants in Dubai, Middle East list. It's incredible the way that that's happening.
Okay.
When I used to go there quite often. Now I've got to manage my kids and their expectations on Saturday morning. But I used to go there quite often for coffee and for breakfast, lunch kind of thing. But the way that she's positioned what was predominantly a breakfast, lunch kind of place, and now doing dinner very well, but positioned it on that circuit of top restaurants in the city. So she's on all those lists. It's incredible.
It's 21 grams.
21 grams, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very proud and impressed by what she's achieved.
Amazing.
It's really good.
Well, Tom, listen, congratulations on everything, and thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thanks, Mark. Cheers.
Appreciate
Thank you.
it, mate.
Thanks.